Welcome back to Everyday AI Made Simple. Grab your drink of choice and let's dive into today's topic.
If you've been following the AI space, you know that the pace of development has gone from just being rapid to, well, it's become truly orbital.
Orbital is a good word for it.
We're just so far past the era of gradual improvements. November 2025 it feels like it's brought a complete restructuring of the AI landscape. The announcements are massive, complex, and they all seem to overlap.
That's the reality right now. It's like watching a technological arms race play out on, 4 or 5 different fronts at once.
Yeah.
You've got code, visuals, infrastructure.
And even personality, which we'll get into.
Exactly. Our sources for this are just this dense stack of product releases, these huge strategic partnerships, and some really critical new research on how these systems are actually impacting society.
So our mission on this deep dive is, I think, pretty straightforward. We're here to filter that information fire hose for you. We're going to try to distill these overlapping stories from coding agents that can work for a full day straight to visual models that handle text perfectly to some surprising breakthroughs in AI empathy and really figure out what it all means for you.
Right. We'll try to focus on the so what. I mean, how are these new agentic capabilities really changing professional workflows? We'll look at the safety questions they raise, especially in, high-stakes fields like medicine.
You've probably heard that models are getting smarter, but we're going to dig into how they're also becoming, well, surprisingly more emotional and more integrated into things like your browser and even online shopping. Let's dive in. We really have to start on the software engineering battleground. The advancements here are just redefining what an AI developer can even do.
Absolutely. It feels like we're seeing this clear pivot from AI as like a fancy autocomplete tool to AI as a genuine autonomous software engineer.
A long-haul engineer.
Exactly. And the competition is intense. You've got OpenAI's latest going up against this formidable new alliance of Microsoft, Anthropic, and NVIDIA.
Yeah, let's start with OpenAI. They made the first big splash with GPT 5.1 Codex Max.
Right. And this isn't just an incremental version bump. This is a fundamental update to their core reasoning model. And it's specifically built to handle these really big, long-running software engineering tasks.
Okay, so let's unpack that term, long-running. Historically, AI models, especially with coding, they would just sort of lose the plot after a while, right? They'd forget what they were doing a few hours in.
Yeah, context decay. It's been a huge problem.
So how does Codex Max manage these massive projects, like refactoring a whole code base or a debugging session that lasts all day?
That is the core breakthrough. It's a new process that OpenAI is calling compaction.
Compaction.
Yeah. And the best way to think about it is like a human developer. If you're working on a big project for a few days, you don't keep every single line of code in your head.
Of course not.
You're constantly summarizing, pruning your notes, just keeping the essential context for what you need to do next. Compaction is the model doing that for itself autonomously.
So it's like an intelligent internal memory management system for the AI.
Precisely. It allows the model to work coherently across multiple context windows, and it just dynamically manages its own state over these really long periods. It prunes its history, it consolidates it, and that means Codex Max can reason over millions of tokens in a single continuous task.
So we're talking about project-scale refactors, deep debugging that. That used to require a human to constantly step in and reorient the model.
All the time.
And that sustained autonomy is what really feels new here. The sources mention internal tests showing this model working independently on tasks for, what was it?
It wasn't 24 hours.
24 hours. That takes the AI from being a helpful junior programmer to a tireless, persistent developer that can work a shift a human just can't.
And that capability translates directly into efficiency gains, which is key for businesses.
How?
On the SWE Bench Verified Benchmark, which is a really tough one, Codex Max performed better than its predecessor.
GPT 5.1 Codex.
Right. And it did that while using 30% fewer thinking tokens.
And those tokens are what cost money.
That's the cost, exactly. So you're getting more capability for a noticeably lower operational cost.
But they also gave developers an option to sort of go the other way, right? If speed isn't the main issue, you can unlock a deeper level of reasoning.
Yes. For tasks where you're not worried about latency, so think like deep architectural reviews or complex security audits, they introduced an extra high reasoning effort setting. They call it XI.
XI.
And this setting basically tells the model to spend more time on computation and reflection to get the most detailed, precise answer it possibly can. It's this explicit trade-off.
Yeah.
You can sacrifice some speed for much greater depth.
It's like having the choice between a quick once-over or a really intensive deep analysis. Now, moving past capability, what about integration? It's trained to operate in Windows environments now for the first time.
Which is huge for enterprise adoption. So many legacy systems are still built on that infrastructure.
Right, but integration is one thing, safety is another, especially with a model this powerful.
And they were very clear about the safety context here. OpenAI stated that while Codex Max is the most capable cybersecurity model they've ever deployed.
Which is a big statement.
It is. But they also explicitly said it does not reach high capability under their preparedness framework.
Okay, so why is that distinction so important for them to make?
Well, that framework is designed to categorize models based on their potential for misuse in really sensitive areas like, bioweapons or cybersecurity. By saying it doesn't reach high, they're acknowledging it's powerful, can definitely find flaws and probably write exploits, but they believe they have enough control over it. Its potential for autonomous exploitation isn't at a level that triggers their absolute highest level of pre-deployment scrutiny.
And what are the actual guardrails, the practical safeguards they've put in place?
It's a multi-layer defense. So, by default, Codex runs in a secure sandbox.
Right.
That isolates its actions, and it limits file writes only to its own dedicated workspace. And crucially, network access is disabled unless a developer explicitly turns it on.
Which is the big one for preventing things like prompt injection. Right?
Yeah, that's the primary mitigation.
Yeah.
You don't want the model being tricked by untrusted data it finds while browsing the live web.
So the message to developers is still very much, use the tool, but maintain human oversight.
Absolutely. The official guidance really stresses that you should treat Codex as an additional reviewer, an incredibly powerful one, but not a replacement for a human code review.
Yeah.
The final decision on security on deployment that has to be anchored by human judgment.
Got it. Okay, so now let's pivot to the rival camp, because the move by Anthropic, Microsoft, and NVIDIA, it is completely reshaping the infrastructure landscape. Anthropic just got a massive compute commitment.
This might be the biggest strategic headline of the entire month. It's not just a partnership. It's an infrastructure commitment on just a gargantuan scale.
Mm-hmm.
Anthropic has committed to purchasing $30 billion of Azure compute capacity. And on top of that, they're contracting for additional power capacity up to 1 gigawatt, which will be serviced by NVIDIA's most advanced systems, Grace Blackwell and Vera Rubin.
And Microsoft and NVIDIA are backing this with their own staggering investments, right? Up to $5 billion from Microsoft and $10 billion from NVIDIA into Anthropic.
Right. This alliance basically guarantees that Anthropic has the sheer computational power and the cutting-edge hardware to compete directly with OpenAI's frontier models for years to come.
So what does that mean for an enterprise user like today?
Accessibility. Immediately. Anthropic's Claude model Sonnet 4.5, Haiku 4.5, and Opus 4.1 are all available right now in Microsoft Foundry.
Which is Azure's platform for building enterprise apps.
Exactly. But they did something even smarter from a business perspective.
What's that?
They made the Claude models eligible for the Microsoft Azure Consumption Commitment, or MACC.
Okay, break down what MACC is for us.
So large corporations often pre-commit huge amounts of money to Microsoft for cloud services every year. It's like an internal budget they have to spend on Azure.
Right.
By making Claude MACC eligible, a company can now use that existing pre-approved cloud budget to pay for Anthropic's models. They can completely bypass the long, bureaucratic process of getting a new vendor or a new budget approved.
Wow. So for a big company that's already all in on Azure, the barrier to adopting Claude is effectively zero.
It completely flattens the adoption curve for them inside the Fortune 500. It's a brilliant strategic move.
And in terms of the models themselves, which one is being positioned as the direct competitor to Codex Max?
That would be Sonnet 4.5. Anthropic is explicitly marketing it as the best coding model in the world and the strongest one they have for building complex agents.
And what about the other models, like Haiku?
Haiku 4.5 is positioned as the workhorse. It's optimized for high-volume, cost-efficient tasks. So you might use it to run, say, a bunch of sub-agents within a larger workflow because it's faster and cheaper per token.
And like OpenAI, they're not just sticking to developer tools. They're pushing Claude right into the daily applications we all use.
The integration into Microsoft 365 Copilot agent mode in Excel is a huge sign of where this is all going. It's in preview now, but it means you can prompt Claude right inside Excel to do complex things, generate multi-step formulas, analyze a huge data set, find subtle errors.
It's moving from being a general chatbot to a specialized, deeply embedded productivity assistant.
The line is completely blurring. These tools are becoming necessary, integrated features of the software we use every single day.
Okay, so we've established that code generation is becoming highly autonomous. Let's switch gears completely now to creativity and visuals, because Google DeepMind just launched Nano Banana Pro, and it feels like it's fundamentally changing what we should expect from image generation.
Yeah, Nano Banana Pro or Gemini 3 Pro Image is what happens when you apply Gemini 3's advanced reasoning capabilities directly to creating visuals.
What do you mean by that?
Well, older models were really good at pattern matching. They could make things that looked like real photos, but they didn't have a deep, informed understanding of the content. This new model leverages Gemini 3's real-world knowledge, and that's the key difference.
And this is where the leap in utility for professionals really comes in. I mean, the biggest complaint about even the best image models was always text, right? You'd ask for a sign that said welcome, and you'd get, well, gibberish.
Alphabet soup, yeah. That is now largely a problem of the past. Nano Banana Pro is excellent at rendering accurate, legible text directly inside the images it generates.
And it's not just like one font or one language.
No, it supports multiple languages and a whole range of styles. You can ask for elegant calligraphy, sharp retro print, or detailed text in a product mockup, and the result is highly reliable. That capability alone is huge for marketing, design, advertising.
And because the model is hooked into Google Search, the visuals can be factually rich, not just pretty.
Exactly. It's moving beyond just illustration to what you might call informed visualization. You can feed it a complex statistic, and it can generate a professional, structured infographic based on that real-time data.
That's a game changer for journalists, analysts, anyone who needs to translate complex info into a visual quickly.
For sure.
Now, the other big hurdle was always consistency. You know, if you had multiple characters in a scene, they'd start to warp or change appearance from one image to the next.
The consistency problem. Yeah, it tackles that head on. The model can blend up to 14 different input images and maintain the consistent resemblance of up to 5 specific people across really complex compositions.
So an architect could feed it a bunch of sketches and get back a consistent 3D structure.
A photorealistic one, yeah. Or a film director could create scene mock-ups, and the characters look the same from every angle under different lighting. It's a massive deal for professional workflows.
And the integration strategy seems clear. Get this into the tools people are already using. It's rolling out in Google Workspace.
Immediately. In Google Slides, there's a new feature called Beautify This Slide.
I saw that.
It just takes your existing, maybe text-heavy content and transforms it into a thoughtfully designed visual that matches the rest of your deck. It just automates all that visual polish.
And in NotebookLM, their research tool, it's even more deeply integrated.
Right. In NotebookLM, it can take all of your source documents and visualize the key insights as high-quality infographics and then generate a complete shareable PDF slide deck from them. It's a research assistant that's also a presentation producer.
Of course, when image generation gets this good, the ethical conversation about synthetic media gets very loud.
And Google is clearly trying to get ahead of that. They're using a multi-layered approach to transparency, and it's all centered around their digital watermarking system, Synthety.
Okay, so Synthi, how does that work?
It's an imperceptible digital watermark that's embedded in all media generated by Google's Tools images now, and audio and video are coming soon. You can't see it, but Google systems can detect it, which provides a kind of digital provenance.
And there's also a visible watermark, but that depends on who you are, right?
That's correct. To be transparent with the general public, users on the free and Google AI Pro tiers will see a visible watermark, that little Gemini sparkle, on their images.
But not for paid professional users.
Right. For AI Ultra subscribers and developers using AI Studio, that visible sparkle is removed so they have a clean, professional canvas. But, and this is the critical point, the invisible synthide watermark is still there on every image across all tiers.
And they also gave the public a way to check an image themselves.
This is maybe the most important step for building public trust. They launched a new tool where you can upload any image to the Gemini app and just ask it, was this generated by Google AI?
A direct verification tool.
A direct, accessible tool for anyone. It starts with images, but they say it's expanding to video and audio soon. That kind of user-accessible detection is going to be crucial as it gets harder and harder to tell what's real.
Okay, so we've covered the huge technical leaps in code and visuals, but the way we actually interact with these models is evolving just as quickly. The next big battle seems to be for, well, emotional intelligence. And Grok 4.1 from XAI is right at the front of that.
Grok 4.1 is a massive and I think very conscious rebranding.
How so?
Well, the previous versions were known for being a rebellious wildcard, right? Cynical, sarcastic, sometimes kind of blunt.
Yeah.
The 4.1 model is being intentionally refined to be a reliable, user-friendly companion, and that new personality is being rolled out everywhere, -grok.com, X, iOS, and Android.
So this is a deliberate move toward adding emotional range and empathy into the conversation. They even have a benchmark for it.
They do, and that benchmark is key. Grok 4.1 now leads the EQ Bench 3 test.
EQ Bench 3.
And that test isn't just measuring facts. It's specifically designed to evaluate a model's emotional intelligence, its ability to show empathy, to understand human feelings, and to display, sophisticated interpersonal skills.
And the preference data they released is pretty compelling.
Staggering, really. In a 2-week blind rollout, users preferred Grok 4.1 over the older Grok 4.0 almost 65% of the time. That's a huge mandate for this new, more personable experience.
And you can really see the difference in the examples they provided, the one about the user missing their cat.
Right. A user says something simple like, "I miss my cat so much it hurts." The old Grok might give a sympathetic but pretty functional response.
He acknowledges the pain, but that's about it.
Exactly. Grok 4.1, though, responds with this much more visceral emotion. It acknowledges the brutal ache, it mentions the quiet spots where they used to sleep, and it uses a heart emoji. It connects to the emotional weight of it.
It makes the interaction feel more like you're talking to a friend than a search engine.
Right.
But let me challenge that for a second. Is this really AI empathy, or is it just incredibly good prompt engineering that's been optimized to score well on that EQ bench test? Are we just falling for a parlor trick?
That's the essential critical question. I mean, whether the AI feels empathy is, frankly, irrelevant. What matters is whether it can simulate empathy convincingly enough to improve the user experience and drive engagement.
And the market is saying it does.
The market evidence, that 65% preference rate, shows that users actively prefer being catered to emotionally. This proves that for a lot of consumers, utility now includes feeling understood and validated, not just getting the right answer. It sets a new baseline.
So moving from personality to pure functionality, we're also seeing the rise of specialized AI browsers.
The browser wars are back, and they're being fueled by AI. On one side, you've got Perplexity launching Comet for Android. They're explicitly calling it the AI native browser.
And the big feature for mobile there seems to be smart summarization.
Yes, and it's a key difference from other tools. Most tools will summarize the current page you're on. Comet Smart Summarization works across all of your open tabs.
Oh, that's interesting.
So if you have 4 tabs open on, say, different aspects of the AI economy, Comet can synthesize all of them into a single, unified summary. It's a huge accelerator for complex research.
And it has the AI assistant and ad blocker, and you can chat with your tabs using your voice.
Right. Meanwhile, OpenAI is aggressively evolving its own browser, ChatGPT Atlas, from macOS, and they're focusing more on organization and security.
What were the key updates for Atlas?
A lot of it was around tab management for power users. So they introduced vertical tabs, which are great for organization when you have a ton open. They added multi-select drag for grouping tabs and MRU cycling.
Most recently used.
Exactly. So you can just quickly toggle back and forth between your most recent tabs. And I thought it was interesting, they also added the option to set Google as your default search engine,
Bit of pragmatism there.
acknowledging that users might still want a traditional search engine for some things. They also added an insert button in the sidebar for dropping AI text into forms and support for iCloud passkeys for security.
Okay, let's zoom out to the broader ChatGPT platform because they've made some enormous moves in commerce and proactive information. This is the start of agentic commerce.
Officially, yeah. This is the integration of purchasing directly within the chat. It's called Instant Checkout.
Built with Stripe.
Built with Stripe and powered by something called the Agentic Commerce Protocol, or ACP. It's rolling out to all U.S. users, plus Pro and free.
So what exactly is this agentic commerce protocol?
It's the underlying framework that allows merchants to manage secure, agent-mediated transactions. So before, an AI might recommend a product and give you a link. Now, the agent is directly integrated with the merchant's inventory and payment system. The ACP handles the secure transmission of all the transaction details, letting you confirm and pay in one tap without ever leaving the chat.
That just removes so much friction from the buying process. It launched with Etsy, but it's expanding fast.
Immediately. Big Shopify merchants like Spanx, Skims, and Glossier are already rolling out. The AI is becoming a transactional platform itself.
And beyond commerce, they introduced a feature for the AI to proactively bring you information.
That's ChatGPT Pulse. It's for pro users, and it's basically an asynchronous research function. Based on your memory and past chats, Pulse is constantly monitoring for new information on topics you care about.
And it brings it to you.
Once a day, it delivers a visual summary of updates. It's like a highly personalized daily briefing built just for you by the AI.
And finally, they're expanding collaboration tools.
Yeah, they're piloting group chats in places like New Zealand and Japan, which lets you bring multiple people and ChatGPT into the same conversation. And they also rolled out shared projects for all tiers, which is like a workspace for grouping files and chats together.
And the model itself and the personality controls got an update.
Right, the Pro model is now GPT 5.1 Pro, which testers rated highly for clarity and structure. But maybe more importantly for daily use, the personality controls like friendly, professional, quirky have been refined. And any change you make now applies immediately across all of your chats, even old ones, which ensures a really consistent tone.
So now we have to shift to the domain where all this capability directly intersects with human consequences. I'm talking about high-stakes fields like medicine. When an AI operates here, the stakes are patient safety and well-being. And there's this fascinating study on AI in emergency medicine, the YKUNOTEN study.
This study is a perfect real-world example of AI's promise and its practical limitations in a really chaotic clinical environment. It evaluated a large language model assistant called YKNOTEDN.
And it was designed for one specific task.
A very important one, generating emergency department discharge documentation.
What makes this system unique is that it's built on an open-source model, Llama 3, but it was fine-tuned on local data.
That's a critical design choice for healthcare. By fine-tuning it with institutional data, so real anonymized patient records and notes from that specific Korean health system, and deploying it locally on premises, they get around a lot of the privacy and regulatory hurdles that plague cloud-based AI in medicine.
And the results, at least on the surface, were incredibly positive.
Overwhelmingly so. In blinded comparisons, experienced reviewers rated the AI-generated and AI-assisted notes as significantly more complete, more correct, and more clinically useful than the notes written manually by clinicians.
And the efficiency gains were huge.
Massive. Documentation time, which is a constant bottleneck in a busy ED, dropped by more than 50% when clinicians were just revising the AI's draft instead of writing from scratch.
Cutting documentation time in half in an emergency department, that could be revolutionary for provider burnout alone.
The promise is absolutely undeniable. But, to their credit, the researchers were very clear about the caveats, and we have to emphasize these limitations.
Okay.
First, the evaluation was done in a virtual electronic health record with sanitized data.
So clean data.
Perfectly clean, structured, and complete. That is not the chaotic reality of clinical care, where data is often missing, conflicting, or just plain wrong.
And the assessment of the quality itself was a bit subjective.
Exactly. The inter-rater reliability, which is just a measure of how much the different expert reviewers agree with each other, it was only modest for key things like correctness and clinical utility.
What does modest mean in this context? What were the scores?
The ICC scores were 0.39 for correctness and 0.55 for clinical utility. On a scale of 0 to 1, that's considered fair, but not great. It means there was a lot of variability in what different experts considered correct or useful, which shows how hard it is to objectively measure the quality of this stuff.
But the biggest limitation is what the study didn't measure right. And this moves us from workflow efficiency to actual patient safety.
This is the crucial next step for all of medical AI.
Yeah.
The study focused on the provider, on the quality of the note. It did not assess any downstream effects on the patient.
Did the patient understand the instructions better? Were they safer?
Exactly. The true value isn't just saving the doctor time. It's whether the patient can better comprehend that AI-assisted summary, which might reduce their confusion or their risk of having to come back to the ED in 72 hours. That's the research that has to be done next.
And this brings up that danger of cognitive offloading, the idea that a busy doctor faced with a perfect-looking AI draft just stops thinking as critically.
The risk of edit fatigue is very real. When you're under pressure and a draft looks 80% correct, the tendency is to just co-sign it with minimal edits, rather than critically checking every single detail.
And if the AI hallucinates one crucial detail,
the human might miss it. That reliance on the high-quality draft could ironically introduce a new safety risk that wasn't there before. The promise is huge, but the need for vigilant human oversight is absolutely non-negotiable.
Now, shifting from medicine to family life, let's look at how AI and screen tech are impacting the youngest among us, our children. We've got some really revealing data from the Pew Research Center.
And the data shows a pretty significant and accelerating trend. Starting with the very youngest, the share of parents who say their child under the age of 2 watches TV has jumped from 63% in 2020 to 82% today.
82%. Wow, so screens are being normalized earlier than ever.
For sure. And AI chatbots are no longer some abstract thing for older kids. They're already in the home.
What are the numbers on that?
About 1 in 10 parents with a child between 5 and 12 say their kid uses AI chatbots like ChatGPT or Gemini. And for that preteen group, 11 to 12-year-olds, it rises to 15%.
So while parents are still worried about tablets and phones, generative AI is quickly becoming part of the toolkit for this generation.
It is. But despite AI's emergence, the biggest source of parental anxiety is still social media.
That's not surprising.
No, but the number is. An astounding 80% of parents say the harms of their child using social media outweigh the benefits. 80%. That concern puts immense pressure on tech companies to provide real, effective controls.
And we're seeing that pressure reflected in the kinds of parental controls that OpenAI, for example, has just rolled out globally.
Right. OpenAI has recognized they need explicit, family-focused tools. So once a parent links their account with a teen's, they can manage some key settings.
Like what?
They can set quiet hours, which are times when the teen can't use ChatGPT. They can turn off voice mode, they can turn off memory so conversations aren't saved, and they can remove the image generation capability entirely from the teen's account.
That ability to turn off memory seems really important for privacy.
It is. And when the accounts are connected, teens also automatically get additional content protections, like reduced access to graphic content. It's a clear sign that these companies know they have to design their tools with families and children in mind, respecting that deep anxiety we see in the Pew data.
Okay, so we started this deep dive with the fierce competition in coding agents and that staggering compute commitment from Anthropic. We should end by placing all that energy and money into the context of global infrastructure and, frankly, geopolitical strategy.
That's the essential structural truth of all this. The AI race is, fundamentally, a race for compute power and control over the hardware supply chain.
And we saw a massive signal of confidence from Google this month about where they see the stable, long-term anchor for that hardware development being.
A huge signal. Google opened its largest AI hardware engineering center outside the U.S. in Taiwan.
A move that is both a major business investment and a pretty clear geopolitical statement.
It's a statement about trust and necessity. It signals Google's confidence in Taiwan as a trustworthy partner, and it just underscores the island's completely irreplaceable role in the AI supply chain.
Because of TSMC.
Because of TSMC, the world's largest contract chip maker. Their advanced chips are the literal engine fueling this entire AI surge.
And this kind of move doesn't happen in a vacuum. It got high-level political endorsement.
Immediately. The U.S. ambassador to Taiwan framed the investment as marking a new golden age in U.S.-Taiwan economic relations. And the Taiwanese president welcomed it as a sign that the world sees Taiwan not just as a manufacturing base, but as a secure and trustworthy hub for building next-gen AI.
So if Google's move highlights the strategic need for hardware access, Anthropic's compute deal highlights the sheer cost of it.
The scale of that Anthropic commitment is almost hard to comprehend. We should say it again. $30 billion of Azure compute capacity, plus contracting for up to 1 gigawatt of additional power.
And that's not for buildings or people. That's just the cost of accessing the raw computational power.
$30 billion for access, and it is the clearest possible indicator of the insane intensity of this competition.
So what's the structural implication of Anthropic basically locking themselves into the Microsoft and NVIDIA ecosystem like that?
It's a classic infrastructure dependency trade-off. On one hand, they get guaranteed access to the most advanced chips on the planet. That guarantees they can compete technically with OpenAI.
But on the other hand,
they become deeply dependent on Microsoft's cloud and NVIDIA's hardware roadmap. That financial commitment is a powerful strategic bottleneck. It just shows that access to state-of-the-art compute is the real strategic asset in this arms race, maybe even more than the models themselves. That infrastructure deal dictates the competitive landscape for years.
This has been a really dense, but I think essential deep dive. If we try to synthesize the last 40 minutes, two major shifts seem to stand out for me. First, the AI agent is fully transitioning from, a novelty or an assistant to a truly autonomous worker.
That autonomy shows up in both the technical capability like Codex Max running a 24-hour coding task and in seamless user integration. We see it with Claude being embedded in Excel and with instant checkout in ChatGPT, making the AI a functional part of the commercial chain.
And second, there's this intense fight for user engagement that's being driven by personality. I mean, Grok 4.1's breakthrough in emotional intelligence leading the EQ bench and that 65% user preference, it signals that AI companionship is now prioritizing empathy right alongside factual intelligence.
Right. And all this rapid integration forces us, the users, to confront a really fundamental question about our own roles. We talked about that promising Wine and OT Edian study, but we also highlighted the critical risk of edit fatigue and cognitive offloading.
When a highly capable, highly personable agent is drafting our code or synthesizing our research or even helping set boundaries for our kids, the human role becomes less about creation and more about vigilant oversight.
Exactly.
So here is the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. Given the evidence showing how quickly professionals can experience that cognitive offloading when they're reviewing AI drafts, and considering how personable and seamless these new AI assistants are becoming, how will you ensure that these tools remain powerful catalysts for your critical thinking, rather than serving as easy replacements for it, especially when the task involves complex reasoning or real-world consequences?
That's a wrap, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Everyday AI Made Simple. If you want more of this type of content, hit subscribe and hit that bell so you'll be notified when I post new content. And if you're interested in getting my free AI prompts or free GPTs, think of them as personal mini agents to use in ChatGPT. You can grab them at everydayaimadesimple.ai. The link is below in the description. Thanks for watching.